For all the people that are listening today, my podcast guest is Erich Schwer from Bachelorette, and we've never spoken before. This is the first time we've ever had a conversation, but as you guys know, the podcast episodes with other reality people get all the views, and I like having conversations with other reality people on their mental health prior to going on TV, while they were on TV, and after they were on TV. And don't know how much Erich is going to open up, but he it's challenging going on reality TV. Myself struggled a lot coming off the show. I became an egotistical, narcissistic, pretentious douchebag, and I spent every single dollar I had coming in and on alcohol and drugs. And it was just, even though I was young, I was 23 at the time, it was bad choices after bad choices after bad choices. And Erich, man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on the podcast. Say, how you doing?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much, Zach. And I mean, I guess, yeah, I'm curious about your history as well. And, I guess 2014, that's when you were on the show. So how long did it take you to kind of get back to this? I mean, I'm just start following you now. So it seems like you've got this like amazing mindset. You're super productive, ultra productive, I would say. How long did this like transition, and like, how did you I know you're curious about me, but I'm also super curious about you.
I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the authentic interest. So still in the very beginning of my journey, man, it's like, one small habit after one small habit, positive habits, after one small positive habit, after one small positive habit, they eventually start building on each other. And when they're building on each other, it creates the foundation. So waking up early, meditation, eating healthy, going to the gym, very simplistic, basic, elementary personal growth and self-development tools that we all know about. Because there's a difference between knowing something and actually doing it. We all know we should save our money. We all know we should avoid soda. We all know we should eat healthy and go to the gym. But there's only a certain few of us that actually do those things consistently over an extended period of time, right? So as far as like to answer that question, I'm still on the journey, but it started with just like reading a book. I was like, I'm just going to read a book. I haven't read a book since freaking high school. I'm just going to read 10 pages of a book. Like, I reached out to someone I admired that was successful. Like, you got any book recommendations? And one book opens your mind to something. And then you're like, oh shit, wait a second. Mindfulness. What the mindfulness? Like, what the, this sounds kind of interesting. Wait a second. Buddha was all about mindfulness and mental health. Wait a second. He talks about consciousness and awareness. Like, am I conscious? And then I started just going down that rabbit hole. And it's just led to a lot of amazing things. And again, this is still the very beginning of my journey. And just still trying to learn and be better every single day. But a beginner's mindset, I think, is the foundation. Like realizing we don't know what we don't know. We don't know. I didn't know about the benefits of compound interest in a tax-deferred Roth IRA until I was 26. Why didn't I know that at 19? I would have been buying Apple in 2009. I'd be up 2,000% instead of 300%. You know what I mean? I wish I knew a lot of these things earlier. So I think it comes with humility and a beginner's mindset.
Yeah, and the willingness to learn, and interest in learn too. So do you have mentors as well that's kind of helped guide you through this like transition and path to?
Good question. I love the questions. Mentors. Even though I've never met Brian Tracy and Jim Rohn and Darren Hardy and Tony Robbins and Greg McKeown, all these authors that like I really admire, they're not my mentors, but I see them as my mentors because I consume every piece of content they've ever published.
Yeah.
Right? Like instead of listening to music while I'm in the car for 45 minutes a day, I'm listening to an audiobook. Right? And like I just read 10 pages every single day. And so do I have any mentors? No. But also I seek out mentors and I ask people a lot of questions. I'm in the real estate industry, been selling real estate since 2016. Been doing it now for like, I guess, 8 years, 7 years. And I'm always reaching out to the 1% successful agents in my area. Hey, dude, I'm Zach. I'm still new. What can I do to be better? Can we meet for coffee?
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm just always trying to ask people what's helped them. What were their mistakes? If they can go back in time, what would they do differently?
Yeah. No, that's great.
Not a mentor that like I speak to every single week, or not a mentor that I pay or anything. It's kind of just like there's mentors all around there.
You're just pulling from. That's a great way to do it. I used to be in commercial real estate very recently. And I was lucky with a couple of bosses, and I would kind of consider them mentors. And, they were people that really kind of took me under their wing. And I always had somebody to go to like at any hour of the day for any questions, like in that industry, which is great. But now I'm like, kind of taking a different path, and I'm finding now that like that's kind of what I'm looking for is to have somebody to answer like these questions. And I'm kind of doing what you're doing, but I'm just starting out, and I'm meeting with a ton of people asking all these questions. But it is very much like, you're on your own. So every day that, you that starts, you have to figure out how you're going to structure it, what you're going to do, who you're going to meet with, how you're going to do better than the day before, and be more, on track to becoming successful in what you want to do. So for me, it's very new, and that's kind of, that's kind of why I'm asking these questions, is like to see what works for you. And, you seem to have this like amazing mindset and all this energy and, things that are working. So I'm trying to take little tidbits of information and apply it to myself, selfishly.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the kind words. And also, it's even harder and more challenging in your position. And I'll tell you why, because you were on reality TV. There's news articles written about you left and right. People have ideas for you on things you should be doing to make more money, things you should be doing to leverage your brand, things you should be doing, what deals you should take, what deals you shouldn't take. You're being bombarded and overwhelmed with people's opinions.
Yeah.
Right? And some people want the best for you. Some people don't want the best for you. And even the people that do want the best for you don't know what's best for you. So It's even harder in your position that you're being bombarded by so much opinions and information. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's all fresh too. And also like geographically where I'm at right now. So I lived in LA before all this happened. And like, this is, coming off reality TV, it's just a lot of people move here, or this is kind of a place to be. So there's a lot of like you said, being pulled in different directions that, like when this year started, my thing was like, I kind of want to try everything and see what works, what's successful, what sticks. But I find that I am, wasting a lot of time on things that like, I know I'm not interested in, but people think I should be, or, being pulled in directions and that like, ultimately I know is not what's good for me. So I think there's a lot of distraction, there's a lot of noise. And then there's a lot of just like, a lot of like the social distraction out here as well. So I think I hit a restart in January, and I kind of wanted to like really prioritize, what I want to do and how to get there, and how to treat each day with like I create these lists. I'm old fashioned. I write things down. I in priority, and every day it kind of carries over. Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's really just kind of blocking out the noise, staying focused, and then also just it being new in a city, I'm constantly being distracted by like the social settings as well. So with your lifestyle now, are you sober? Do you still go out? Are you social?
Great. And I also want to piggyback off of what you said, but quick question. Is there any way, not that you have to do this, but your like bracelets or something are like creating some audio in the back?
It might be from my sweatshirt with this microphone.
Oh, interesting.
Or actually, it could be my beard.
Okay. All right. Don't worry about it then. Don't worry about it.
I'll hold it. I'll just hold it.
No, you're good. You don't even have to. It's not that bad, but if you could, that'd be awesome. So I want to piggyback off of what you said, because you said something about how like knowing what's good for me. So what do you think is good for you? Or what do you know for a fact? Let's start here. What do you know for a fact is good for you? And this doesn't have to be business related. It doesn't have to be about opportunities. It could just be about, hey, I know I need good sleep.
Yeah.
Or like, I know I need to hit the gym every single fucking day. Like, what do you know is good for you?
Yeah. And I think I actually kind of took a step back, and we can kind of go further back into the whole mental health journey that I've kind of gone through. But really, like for me, it really boils down to like structure, sleep, less drinking, and basically lists. It's like that simple for me. Figure out how to structure your day where you have, because I'm being pulled in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of things I'm working on. How do I time out my day and map out my day where I'm being productive on each of these things and contributing to them, that they're moving in the direction that I want them to, and I'm not getting distracted. So that's kind of where the lists come in, where it's, okay, so I have this block, this block, this block. Like I have different categories of, like different like blocks of things, and then a list under each. So I kind of go through that. And then for me, like physical activity, working out, I surf a lot. That's a big point of like meditation and mental health for me. And then the drinking, and it just, that kind of complicates everything. So ideally that whole package, if I can kind of do that, then I'm in a much better mindset and much better place, like mentally, physically.
Good, man. Let me ask you this question. The lists that you're writing daily, how long have you been doing that?
I started that when I was working in real estate, actually. So I kind of started these lists, and like I kind of check things off, and the stuff that didn't make it, I carried it the next day, and I put the stuff at the top that's like most important. So it's evolved into something that I've got a little more fine tuned now. But you can make the list and then you just stare at it, and then like a week will go by. I'm like, damn, I didn't do anything on this list.
Right.
Or I get distracted. I lose a whole day doing something that's just completely off track. But yeah, it's been, I don't know, a couple of years now. But I think for me, that's what helps.
Okay. If there was one thing on the list that was the most important thing that you had to write down every day, and you can only pick one thing, what's the most important thing on that list?
Well, for me, it's like tasks. So like right now, I'm trying to get in touch with certain people. I want to keep this as general as possible because it's something that I haven't really talked about yet. But
possible.
Yeah, I'm trying to track down certain people that I need to meet with, and it's just I'm working around a lot of people's schedules. So for me, it's like keep hounding these people, be like respectfully persistent, but you have to not be afraid to just keep hounding on these people, and because
Hound them.
So that's the top of my list is the follow up, and there's like 5 or 6 names on here that I've just been trying to meet with and get in touch with for like weeks now. So that's the frustrating part for me, but I just got to keep them on there and keep going at it. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I firmly believe, and I have unwavering confidence that if you continue to make these lists and make sure they're in order of your top priority values, whether it's health, whether it's money, whether it's freedom, whether it's relationships, whether it's God, doesn't matter what it is, in order, and you do the most important thing first, you're gonna get everything you want in life, brother. I promise. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying every day. I'm just like, all right, these are the 6 people, hit them up. But as time goes by, it's like very painful. And then, I don't know. I mean, sounds like you have kind of a similar system. So you've been doing it for a while.
And I have. And what system that I use might necessarily work for someone else and vice versa. I feel like that goes without being said, but it's important to say because I do talk a lot about my systems and processes when it comes to personal growth and self-development. As far as like business stuff goes, 50% of my time is real estate, 50% of my time is life coaching. I make more money in real estate, but I like the life coaching way better. And as of right now, I have a full roster of clients. And to all those people that are interested in working with me, you can go to lifecoachzach.com and get on the waiting list. I'm starting to take on new clients July 15th. So I do spend probably 50 hours a week working. But again, getting up at like 4:55 every morning when my alarm clock goes off.
That definitely helps.
It's so important for me because training for Ironman, I want to spend time with my girlfriend. I like riding my bike when the sun sets. I want to be able to spend 45 minutes an hour, like slowly eating dinner and, seeing my family and things. And, there's some other things I like doing that, seeing my buddies or whatever. So, but to answer your question about sobriety and things like that, that is something that is important for sure. I do drink rarely, once every 3 weeks, maybe once a month. I was in Las Vegas back in March and I drank a lot more in 3 days than I probably ever drank since I was back in college at University of Florida. But I think it's important. And, we all have our vices and things like that, finding a balance. But I feel like, and this is not directed to you, this is directed to the audience. If we know something is holding us back, it's important to do a vice check. Like, hey, I'm not going to do this for 10 days in a row. I'm not going to drink coffee for 10 days in a row because I am becoming reliant on coffee and XYZ. So I think that helps the mindset as well. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's kind of what I'm learning now too, especially, I just turned 30, not getting any younger. So it's, a lot of like these meetings and everything, there's a social aspect to it as well. So it is kind of hard for me to like flip that switch and, just basically like take a break or take a step back. So I think that's what I'm working on now. I think that's a huge part of like my productivity and, getting up early and, making that part of my day. So, I'm a very social person though, so it's challenging.
Right. This episode, I was going to start by asking you about your mental health before the show, during the show, after the show, and right now. But I feel like this conversation is flowing very naturally and organically. And if you're okay with continuing this conversation about strictly personal growth, because this is what this podcast is about. The podcast is called Live Better Now. It's a book that I wrote. I published it back in July of 2022. It's called Live Better Now. It's a guaranteed way for millennials and Gen Z to live better right here, right now with what they got from where they're at through the 3 pillars of life: health, wealth, and happiness. And this podcast is all about mindset, mental health, personal growth. So what are some of the personal growth tasks or exercises or tools that you're currently not implementing that you are interested in that you would want to be held accountable to?
Yeah, I think, and we can talk a little bit about the mental health, like before and after too, because that is something that's like, for me, I really haven't talked about it too much, but it is a huge part of like this whole journey of like where I am now.
Well, let's start there then, actually.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your mental health journey when it comes to The
Yeah.
Bachelor and going through that experience.
Yeah. And I think this is probably one of the first podcasts I've done that's kind of, after all this has ended and whatever. So I've had a lot of time to like reflect on this and, think about it. But I guess to dial back, like before the show, this is like 2020. My life was in New York City. I had like a girlfriend of 5 years. I got this promotion in my job. I moved into my own place in New York City, which was good for me. It was a studio, it was small, but I was like, proud of it. Life was kind of going in a good direction. I had like general anxiety about like the future and money and stuff that you kind of worry about when you're in your 20s and mid 20s. And then like COVID happened and my life just got like completely like flipped upside down. So the girlfriend of 5 years, we broke up, like worst timing possible, like right before COVID. So, I had to deal with that. The job ended up letting me go. I lost my apartment. I lost my job. My dad was battling with cancer for a while, but he went into this like crazy surgery. It was kind of exploratory, and they did this like, it's called HIPEC, which is a heated chemo, which is controversial. So the surgery didn't go as well as planned, and it was like this 16-hour procedure. They opened his abdomen, cut off everything out. They heated it, like because he had this it's like 0.01% of people have this type of cancer, which I'm actually doing a fundraiser soon, which we can plug later. But so he was in the hospital unconscious for about like 2 months, and so I basically just took my life on pause, and I was like, I'm gonna go move back home because he was coming out of the hospital at that time. So I didn't have like, it was like this trajectory was, everything's going this way. And then it just went like drop down completely. So I went home for about a year. My dad had lost like 100 pounds. He like had to relearn how to walk. It was kind of a lot to go from like being independent on my own in the city, had this like successful career and things were kind of going in this direction to just completely change. So, and I never really processed it. I just kind of, like the way I dealt with things, like any sort of like mental health or anxiety, or like I would just push it down and be like, all right, we're just going to keep trekking forward. Because I think a lot of people in my life that, I'm kind of like the soundboard or the rock in the relationship. So I never really had the opportunity. I never really felt like I could open up to anybody about anything. So I didn't. And I did that for a year. Lived with my parents back at home in New Jersey, got a job in commercial real estate and development. And this company was great. My boss was fantastic, but I was in like suburban New Jersey and this was like going to be the rest of my life. So I was like living at home. My dad's super sick. I was like commuting to work in like suburban New Jersey. And I was just like seeing where everything was going. And I was just like, this isn't great. So after about a year, he became more dependent. He was doing well. I was just dealing with this like breakup alone basically and like isolation because of COVID, and I just would just bottle it down. I was like, we'll just figure it out, like we'll figure it out later. So about a year went by and things were kind of getting on a good track, and I decided that I didn't want to be in New Jersey for the rest of my life in like suburban New Jersey. I was like, it's not over yet. Like I'm 28, 29, there's got to be more out there. So I started looking for other jobs, and sorry, this is a really long-winded story, but
I'm loving it.
So started looking for other jobs, and I had this like crazy obsession with moving to Los Angeles because of just the lifestyle. New York City for me was great in like the early 20s, but it's like you work your ass off on the weekdays, on the weekends you just go 100%. And so I'd be out until like 4 a.m. and then next thing you know, the weekend will fly by, and then next thing you know, it's like months. And so I think it's like time travel. So I was working really hard, but also partying really hard. And it just, things kind of went by quickly. So for me, like Los Angeles had this draw where all my friends out here are like super active. Everybody's got like these interesting careers, and you can surf and you can hike and you can ski and all these things that I'm interested in outside of like just a professional career. That's what really drew me out here. So I started looking for positions. And so I was in commercial real estate in an acquisitions role. We bought these like big warehouse distribution centers. That was kind of my position for like while I was in New York and the development, we built them. So I got pulled to work out here for a REIT. It's like the top REIT in LA, in California. And so I was here for 3 months, like drove across the country. My dad, I talked to my parents like a lot about it, and they were like, we want you to go, like this is for us. We want what's best for you. We're not going to be happy unless you go. So I was like, all right, I'll go, and I'll come back as often as possible. So I packed all my shit up, drove across the country with it, got settled in, 3 months doing this job, just drowning. Don't get along with my boss. This job is I'm way in over my head. And around this time, like the show had reached out, and I was like, there's no way I'd do this. I've never watched reality TV. I have this career I need to focus on. So I was working like crazy hours, weekends, and I really wasn't enjoying like the California lifestyle that I had envisioned. And then 3 months in, I get let go. And I was just like, oh my God, I uprooted my whole life for this. And so I called the show back, and I was like, you guys still interested in pursuing whatever? And they were like, this is the last day for casting. So if, and I was on a plane to go to Colorado to visit my sister. So I had like basically a really short period of time to figure out if I wanted to do this. So I was in these stages with like interviewing for other commercial real estate jobs. And I had this other opportunity to go on the show that I had never seen before. But I was like, you know what? Let's roll the dice and see what happens. And so I had all this like baggage I was taking with me, just carrying it from like years. And I just had never had any time to process this thing. And like, I really wasn't in the right mental state to be on TV. And I had always just like, I've just been running from this shit for so long. And so I did this, and, I'm a very private person. I had no like Instagram posts for like 2 years. I had like 600 followers. Like my family's like very, very private about things. So I don't know why I thought going on TV was a good idea at the time, but I was like, I'm out of this relationship. I'm dating. I'm meeting people in LA. Maybe I'll meet somebody on a show that, maybe that's how it's going to work out. So did that whole thing. I came out of it, and it was like we had a great time. Like met some amazing people. It was a really, honestly, it was a really fun experience. Enjoyed the whole thing. Like the whole cast and crew are fantastic. But then you come out of it, and it's just a completely different like mind fuck. So I had all this shit from before, and then I have all this new shit, and I had really destructive ways of dealing with things that I just would have these episodes where I would just like implode, and I would like push this down, and then like the spring would just like release, and I would just have these like very like negative ways of dealing with things that I think the people that are closest to me realize like, wow, there's something that's not right here. So there was a point where I was like, all right, I can't do this on my own. I'm finally ready to talk to somebody, and I've never really expressed any of these feelings to anybody. So I've reached out to like a therapist, and that was like, for me, that was the first step to like really getting on this journey where you can open up to somebody and tell them everything, and all your secrets are kept. It's not like I guess I had like trust issues with kind of releasing all this information, but it was my way of like finally just verbally vomiting all this shit from all these years, all this stuff, all this new stuff, all this old stuff. And then for me, it was like a huge like weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt like, because I was like walking around like all like anxious and tense, and literally I like was more relaxed after these conversations. So that was kind of the first step for me. I ended up having to have 2 therapists. One was like the suicide watch therapist, who would like use like all this hardo, because I would just go dark for days, and he would like call my phone. They were like threatening to show up at my door. I was like, all right, I'll handle this. So did that, and then these conversations kind of came more organically, and then I realized I have these friends from kindergarten, and these amazing family members that they want to talk to me, that want me to open up. So I started talking to people around me more and opening up, and these people were there for me at the time when I needed them the most. So I started leaning on people close to me more, and I think I just kind of got in this like much better headspace. And it took me a couple months to get to this point where I wasn't like doing anything. I wasn't trying to focus on my career. I wasn't like applying for jobs. And then I hit the restart button a couple months later, and I was like, all right, let's get this shit together, because otherwise this is you're not going anywhere. So I reset everything, got my life like in order, and then I prioritized like what I want to do, what makes me happy, how are you going to like maintain this like mental growth and grow from this. And we don't ever want to go back to that place we were before. Just keep progressing, keep getting better. So I implemented these practices. The therapist was great. I found that I actually kind of grew out of that. The need to just like talk to somebody that often. I think maybe like once a month is good for me. But I really kind of leaned on like health and fitness and friendships and focusing on goals and career and, motivation. And it's amazing once you start doing these things, how they grow on each other. And then next thing you know, you're working towards something. You're excited to get up in the morning. You're getting like you said, you're getting up earlier. And for me, that was just like, it helped so much. So I had this like whole thing and this journey, and I started processing all this information and all this like shit that had happened to me and stuff that, I couldn't control. And also like midway through that, my dad ended up passing away as the show was like airing and ending. So that kind of like threw me in a bad place. That was like the middle of the worst period of time. But this is all new to me, like how to kind of deal with everything. So it's exciting too, to learn. And that's kind of why I want to talk to you in the first place, is like, it's inspiring to speak to people who have, been through this journey and are on the other side and, are being successful and also implementing, just daily shit that helps you out. So I'm still figuring everything out, but, like I said, I'm just like very optimistic now. I've got these things that help me, that I know what works for me. It doesn't work for everybody else. It's specific to, me personally. And it's, and like, I know what I do that's helpful and what isn't. And, I think just for me now, it's about discipline. So, I'm super excited about this year. This is like probably gonna be the most exciting year of my life. And I'm basically hitting the restart button at age 30. So, it's a little daunting, but fuck it. I'm excited about everything. So that's the really, really long-winded story.
Dude. Well, first of all, I want to commend and acknowledge you for showing the humility and receiving the help when it was there, because a lot of us have pride and we don't want to take help when it's there. But I also I usually have words. I can talk a lot. I can always articulate my thoughts, but truthfully, I don't really have any words to say to you right now, because you did go through a lot, dude.
Yeah.
And
it was just a lot. It's a lot for anybody. I don't know. I mean, there's other stuff in there as well that, I can't talk about because it's way too personal, and other issues with family members and everything. So I think it probably took a couple of years off my life and what I was doing to myself, and, just how I was processing things. But it feels really good to know that you can be in this position and there is still light at the tunnel and there's ways to get out of it. So, I'm happy to have this conversation with people too, because it's like, I've been through this shit. I know how it feels like it's the end of the world, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
Things can always get better.
Dude, things are going to get better. You have an infinite amount of opportunities in front of you, and you are more than capable of capitalizing on any of those opportunities, whether they have to do with what you've done over the last year or not. You said that you're very excited for this year. What are you excited about, man? Tell us what you're excited about.
Yeah. So literally starting January, this was like kind of when I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is going to be the year we're going to try everything, figure out what you want to do. Don't be afraid to, get rejected, whatever. So, for me, it's mostly motivation on, working on these projects that I have. I have these like different buckets of, how I want to make money and what I want to grow and develop. So, I'm trying to feed time into each one of these things that I'm growing. That's like, it's allowed me to use a different side of my brain that I've never used before. And it's the creative side. So real estate for me was like very analytical. I was an analyst. I was like very analytical. I was in Excel all day, but I've always been artistic. Like I used to paint and play the violin, and, I like to create things. And for me, I have the opportunity now which is a blessing from all this experience that I do want to take advantage of, is to use the creative side of my brain and to grow these like different buckets of projects that are just like fun and exciting. And like, I love doing them. So I've never been excited and had the opportunity to do something that allows me to make money, to use this like side of my brain that I also like love. So I think that's what I'm most excited about. And there's some specific things that I'm working on that are going to take a while, but it's just every day chipping away at it and growing it. So that's really what's truly exciting.
That's it. And having purpose around it, dude. Like you're excited about these things, you're passionate about these things, you have purpose. And that's what a lot of people lack these days. You know, they're sleeping in till 10 a.m. and they go to their job at like, 4 p.m. if they're a server, they work in the hospitality or service industry, and, they're just kind of going through the day and on autopilot. They don't know where they're going. So that's exactly where they're going to go, nowhere. And having purpose and having something you're excited about and having something to work towards and develop and see it through and take it to the finish line, right? And then on to the next, right? I feel like us as humans, we're never going to be completely fulfilled. But as long as we have that hope that it will get better, which you have that inspiration, which you have, and purpose around something specific, which is written down right in front of you. You know exactly what you got to do to work on this week, today, till 9 p.m., whatever, so on and so forth. And that's what gets us excited to jump out of the bed. I posted an Instagram story today, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, right? 4:55, the alarm goes off, boom. We got things to do, baby. Ironman Cosmo, November 19th, right? I had to jump on the bike for an hour. I got a 1,000-yard swim later. I'm recording 4 podcast episodes today. I coached 4 clients today. I gotta eat. I gotta take a shit. There's other things I gotta do as well. But I'm happy for you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing once you kind of inspire me to wake up early, but it's amazing once you like get things going in a good direction and how much you be better you feel and how much you grow, and then the shit just like falls in your lap. And I even like this. I'm in a new relationship now that I was like, I wasn't looking for anybody because I really wanted to kind of focus on myself, but I met this like amazing person, and I think it's all kind of, it's like the ethos and the cosmos. Everything just kind of works in your direction, and I don't know if I would have met her, and if I wasn't like, I definitely wouldn't have met her if I wasn't in a good like mental space and like trying to better myself and work on things. And it's just everything kind of goes in a good direction, and I really think there's karma, and it all kind of builds on itself.
100%, absolutely. It's all about just being 1% better every single day. Waking up 1 minute earlier, meditating for 1 extra minute, doing 1 extra rep at the gym, saving $1 extra, investing $1 extra, listening to 1 more minute of a podcast or educational book instead of, rap music that talks about guns and drugs, right? It's like those small little changes that we can make, consistently execute over time, amount to massive results.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, I'm trying to think if I got anything else, man. I think you hit all the bullet points, dude. I want to say thank you again for jumping on the podcast, and good luck with everything. If you need someone to bounce ideas off of, you can definitely hit me up.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. I mean, this is a good conversation. It's kind of motivating in itself, but it's nice to just like verbalize things and kind of recheck to see where you are, because I haven't done a podcast or conversation like this in a while, so it's a good like mental check.
Absolutely. Quick anecdote about that I think you're gonna appreciate too. It's like my whole life coaching journey started during COVID because I was locked in my house. Long story short, I have a rental property that I was currently living in, and COVID hit. Actually, no, it was rented out for season. I was living with my grandma. My grandpa passed away in 2019. I was staying with my grandma. It was a good opportunity to rent my house out, spend time with my grandma who was grieving. COVID hit. My grandma has underlying symptoms, couldn't leave the house to show properties. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to make money? And I was like, you know what? I've always kind of been a natural life coach, always been a good listener, always been a leader in my community. I've always like been very compassionate, empathetic, and able to motivate people around me to like just do better. And I posted an Instagram story about how the news was severely impacting my mental health. I was like, I don't know about you guys. I'm scared as fuck about COVID. Can't leave my house. The world's ending. If you feel the same way, hit the link in my bio. Let's do a call. And I did probably 30 calls, free calls, people. And this was already, 4 years into my personal growth journey of waking up early, of reading books, of meditating, of, saving money, of doing all these things, right? And I was having these calls, and as I'm talking people through and listening to people and helping them just be like, yo, just keep hitting the gym, keep eating healthy, try to find a way to make money, like blah, blah, blah. I was learning it better. I was identifying more as that person, because the best way to learn is to teach, right? The best way for you to gain value from this conversation is just by airing it out, by saying, hey, because I asked you, what's the most important thing on that list? And you were deep in thought. You're like,
Yeah.
thinking, right? Like processing these thoughts, coming up with an action plan, and then executing on the action plan. So when I first went to become a certified life coach at like certified life coaching school, whatever, you pay $5,000, you go through a 60-hour course, whatever. Very low barrier to entry. As long as you got the money, you can become a certified life coach. I mean, you don't even have to be certified. I wanted to learn how to coach people. I wanted to do it the right way. I wanted those credentials. I got my first client, and he paid me $1,500 for 12 weeks of 1-hour sessions. By the way, for all the people listening, that is not the price anymore. That was fresh out, right? So I'm working with him, and we have our first session, and I'm like, dude, like, what do you mean you're sleeping until 9 a.m.? Like, how do you expect to make 6 figures this year as a realtor if you're sleeping? There's realtors that are up at 5 a.m. that have already sent 25 emails and are making calls at 8 a.m. on the dot. Some dudes made 30 calls before you even get out of bed. He's like, dude, you're right. And I get off the phone with him after that first coaching call, the first paid coaching call I did. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no choice but to wake up early every single day, because who am I to tell this guy to wake up early if I'm not doing it? Who am I to tell other people to save their money and read 10 pages a day and meditate and go to the gym and eat healthy and avoid sugar, drugs, and alcohol if I can't be a fraud? You know what I mean? So like, that's when I really stepped into like doubling down on personal growth and self-development. And, so I don't know how that relates to what you said. I can't remember how I went towards that anecdote, but the best way to learn is to teach. The more conversations you have about, and I hope I'm not coming off like I'm trying to teach you anything, or like, I hope I'm honestly just like articulating my thoughts to the audience right now. And it just happens to be that Eric's on the other side of the screen, right? So I'm not like saying this directly at you, Eric. I'm just kind of, out loud, right? So I'm just like, the best way to learn is to teach, right? So the more conversations you have about being a better person, the more conversations you have about stepping into the greatest version of yourself, whatever that looks like for you, because we all have different goals. It's important, and we just got to get these repetitions in each and every single day, and just keep stacking these bricks to build a beautiful house.
Absolutely.
So, Eric, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this just as much as I did. For all those people that are listening on Audible, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, you can follow Eric on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and probably all those other socials. I'm going to drop the links to all of his socials below in the podcast notes. If you haven't already left an honest review or testimonial, please do that. We recommend 5 stars. And Eric, man, have a wonderful day. I look forward to connecting again soon.
Thank you, Zach. It was a pleasure, man.